What is up, my fellow addicts? We are continuing on the top 100 golf balls for 2025. Today we have 70 through 61. So we're starting to get to the little bit more juicier golf balls. We're not quite at the peak yet, but these are going to start to do a few things right here and there and, probably just have a big blaring weakness. Let's dive right in. As always, if you like this content, please like, comment, subscribe, all the free stuff. It really helps the channel out a ton. And also, we do have a membership that just starts at $1, and it helps me provide even more content to you. Thank you so much. If you still are new here and you don't know how we're ranking these golf balls, I have put the link in the description to the video that kind of explains all that and goes over the metrics and how we did it. So that way it'll kind of clear that up. All right, without further ado, let's talk about number 70. At number 70, we're looking at the Pinfold Hearts. This is a golf ball that I love. I mean, I've got the little 007 thing there. I love the James Bond collaboration. I love the history behind it. I love, the old-timey vintage. But, the problem is, and actually it's a big problem, it doesn't perform that well. That's my main problem with it, is that all the years I've tested it now, I keep just hoping I'll get a good performance out of it, and I don't. I mean, it's not bad. It's very mediocre, but I love the fact that they do this kind of like, well, first of all, they had the James Bond collaboration, like I said, which was great, but they also do this like, cards, hearts, jacks, clubs kind of thing, which is really cool. But here's the numbers. This is why ultimately it always ends up at the bottom of the list. 96th when it comes to 50-yard pitch spin, 103rd when it comes to pitching wedge yards, 105th when it comes to the pitching wedge mile per hour, 59th when it comes to pitching wedge spin, 102nd when it comes to the 7-yard distance, 7 mile per hour ball speed, that's 81st, and then second in spin. So it actually had the second highest spin on the 7-iron this year. That was really good to see. But driver performance is actually above average, which is really good. That's actually in the top. So, the driver performance really helps this golf ball out a lot. And I think that the previous golf ball, which was 71, I think that this golf ball doesn't perform quite as well as far as these metrics, but the accuracy was better, the forgiveness was better, all that good stuff. And so they ended up kind of the same. At number 69, we have as much as I like Maxfli and I have respect for them and I still recommend their golf balls, I do feel like they do a lot of experimenting. And when it comes to experimentation, it's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing because you can learn what works, you can figure it out, you cover a lot of your bases, right? But the bad part is that you also can mess some stuff up. And when it comes to the Tour S, the 2023 model, I loved. It had this bouncy ball explosiveness off the club. I mean, the numbers were fantastic. I think it was a top 10 golf ball a couple years ago. I really do. Now, it's not bad, but it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't act the same. And many of you have come forward as well and said, yeah, no, it's not the same. In fact, a lot of you tell me that you'll go on a manhunt to find the 2023 version. You'll buy up all the old boxes when they're on sale. And that's just a shame. It shouldn't be that way. You should never be craving a golf ball model from that many years ago. They should get better. And if it's not better, they shouldn't release it. At least that's my opinion. Looking at the numbers, not good on the 50-yard pitch spin. Pitching wedge distance is fantastic, but the spin is really low, so that kind of tells why the distance is so good. Then when we get to the 7-iron, it's completely mediocre throughout, average. Then when you get to driver, this is where I'm really disappointed. One of the lowest scores I've seen, and then spin was actually pretty good, but I almost have to wonder, did Maxfli really try to make this golf ball more like the AVX, more like a softer, like an ERC, you know what I mean? Were they trying to make it so soft that like it's for an 80 to 85 mile an hour swinger? If they did, I'm kind of disappointed. I don't want that. Maxfli, you already have the soft fly, you already have the tri-fly, you already have the straight fly. You have those for the slower swingers, or mid swingers, and they're all really good for the most part, models. I don't need you to take your Tour series and all of a sudden try to put someone in the 80. That's too much. Maybe you have too many golf balls. At number 68, we have so this is a review you have not seen yet, the Titleist Left Dot, Pro V1 Left Dot. Now, I do give this ball some grace because it's technically in its testing phase. It hasn't officially released yet. I mean, a lot of you got a box, you know, is like an early access kind of thing, you know, and I was lucky enough to be included in that as well. Someone actually, one of you sent me it, and thank you so much. You know, so I do give it some grace because I understand they're experimenting, they're trying to figure it out, it's not an official release, I get that. When I first started testing it, I got to the 50-yard pitch and the pitching wedge, and I was blown away. I was like, holy cow, is this thing like, is this a gamer ball for Nikki here? Like, what's going on here? But then I got to the rest of it. Here's how the numbers actually turned out. If you look at that 50-yard spin, as you can tell, 18th, that's a top 20. That's amazing. Then we get to the pitching wedge yards, the mile per hour, and the spin. All those are in the green. That's one of the best performances from the pitching wedge I've seen this year. Then we get into 7-iron distance, incredible. Ball speed, kind of, I mean, it is good. It's better than average for sure. That's a 46th is an excellent number. But if you look at the spin, that's why the distance was so good, because it had one of the lowest 7-iron spin numbers of the year. Then when we get into the distance, the driving yards were top 30, awesome. Mile per hour, top 30, awesome. But again, the spin was actually way, way high. So that 1/15th is not, you know, high or not low spin, it's high spin, because on a driver, you would prefer, usually most people would prefer to have lower spin. My problem is this. One, the driver spin's obnoxious. You know, having that high of spin on a golf ball that literally all over the cover of it says lowest spin possible. It's for the player who demands the lowest driver spin. Okay, yeah, well, let's rework that. Okay, before the official release next year, let's rework that, because I got nothing but just ridiculous levels of spin. Now, if you look at those numbers, you might say, well, Nick, actually, most of those are pretty good. In fact, the whole top row is green. Like, why is it so low? Well, because the performance side of this golf ball truly was above average. It was actually pretty darn good, but the intangibles weren't. So, like accuracy, this thing sprayed all over. Forgiveness, one of the worst I've ever seen. I mean, and that's usually how Tour Balls Pro V1 is. But yeah, really bad. Value-wise, again, you're looking at 55, 60 a dozen. It doesn't do that well value-wise. Not a big fan of the design. I don't like that they kept the old, like 2020 style Pro V1 design. I give it some grace because I understand it's not an official release yet, but you've got at least a starting point here. I was just hoping for a little bit more. At number 67, I'm so sorry if you have kids and you're having to deal with the 6-7 crap right now. These kids are truly fortunate, because I feel like the older generation, if we had come home, you know, and said like, oh, hey, 6-7, Dad, I feel like our parents would have just been like, go get me the belt. I don't have time to deal with this right now. Just go get me a belt, nice leather, big buckle. Let's just get this out of the way right now and just stop it right now. Anyway, 67 we have. The Top Flight Gamer. This is another one that I'm really disappointed fell so much. I got really good numbers with it last year, but I was swinging a little faster. It's definitely my favorite Top Flight model out of all of them. I know a lot of you wish they had kept the 3-piece model, the urethane model. I know that kind of makes sense. I think Dick's Sporting Goods is trying to clear the way for their Maxfli line to be the face, and the Top Flight's kind of a secondary. I don't know that for certain. I'm just guessing. But overall, it's still not a bad golf ball. I've gamed it throughout the year. It's a solid 2-piece. It's forgiving. It's explosive. It's fun to hit. It actually stops on the green really well. It's a solid golf ball. If we look at the numbers, though, this is kind of what hurt it. As you can see, when it comes to the 50-yard spin, you know, middle of the pack, pitching wedge, middle of the pack. 7-iron I really struggled with this year. It seemed like it just wasn't coming off the club very good. It did spin a lot, which hurt the distance. As you can see, the yards being 110th, that spin number is what hurt it. And so I think that maybe a mid to slow swing might be a little bit better, but driving distance-wise, actually excellent. It actually had high spin, but the yards was 33rd, the mile per hour was 36th. a little bit of a roller coaster there, but I think what really impressed me about that ball last year was the driver performance. Nothing's changed this year, but I just didn't get enough. You know, we tested so many more golf balls, and we changed kind of how the parameters were. We changed how we do the scoring on this.
Sorry to interrupt here, but I feel like this is really important to talk about. When I was trying to get the photos from Dick's Sporting Goods and Golf Galaxy for the Top Flight Gamer, they have completely removed that golf ball from their websites, both of them. If you go and search for Top Flight Gamer, if you search for Top Flight Golf Ball, the Gamer does not pop up at all. In fact, when I even Google searched it, I couldn't find it. I mean, I just brought up a bunch of third-party websites, so I don't know if that means they completely just blew the inventory and they're getting ready to come out with a new model, or if they've just discontinued it as a whole. But I thought it was really interesting because as of a couple weeks ago, they still had a bunch of stock, so I'm not really sure what happened there.
At number 66, we have the Members Mark golf ball. This was a new model this year that came out. You know, immediately everyone's like, how does it compare to Kirkland? How does it compare to Amazon? How does it compare, you know? The Members Mark is the complete opposite of what the Kirkland golf ball is. The Kirkland golf ball is, you know, for faster swingers, more advanced golfers. It's more firmer. You can bend it left and right. The Members Mark is for the guy who wants a ton of spin and wants to just keep it in play. You know, I mean, maybe you don't swing very fast. Maybe you're more of a slow swinger, but, you know, you want to keep the ball in the center of the fairway and just tee to green, get it there, and lower your scores. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you look at these numbers, these actually tell a pretty interesting story if you really look at them. Pitching wedge spin, 50-yard spin, 20th. Distance, dead last. Mile per hour, second to dead last. Spin, 4th with a pitching wedge. Yards with a 7-iron, 118th, 115th, 5th when it came to spin. 95th in yards, 72nd in ball speed, and 108th in spin. So one thing I really give the Members Mark credit for is it's extremely cheap, it's easy to access, and it's consistent, right? It's consistently the highest spinning golf ball, or one of the highest spinning golf balls I've seen this year. And that whether it's the driver, the 7-iron, the pitching wedge, the 50-yard, it spins across all of them. The downside to that, though, is you're not going to get any distance. This is not a distance ball. If you're playing these long championship courses and you've got buddies who are like, hey, let's play from back here, probably not the best choice. But if you're someone like me who plays a lot of shorter, tighter courses, and you might play from the senior tees or maybe the forward tees or whatever, nothing wrong with that. This is a great golf ball for having a lot of greenside control, a lot of greenside spin, and just keeping it in the fairway. It actually is very accurate, it's very forgiving, and it's a solid golf ball, but it's not a distance king. And that's why when I see these comparisons, you know, oh, versus Kirkland, you know, how is it? And they're like, oh, the Kirkland has so much more distance. Well, of course it does. That's what it's designed to do. This ball's not designed for that, so it is what it is. At number 65, we have the Wilson Staff model, which I know this will surprise a few of you. More on that in a second. Now, I haven't tested the X model yet. I've got it on the way, but I haven't had a chance to actually test it yet, so please forgive me. But when it comes to this tour model, you know, it kind of just fits that whole mantra that I always talk about, which is I'm an average golfer. I have an average swing speed that I'm testing from. Probably shouldn't be playing tour-level golf balls. No different here. The Wilson Staff is a traditional type golf ball. It's got a lot of feedback in it. It's got a lot of bendability. It's got that kind of click where, you know, it's a traditional, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like that. But the numbers tell a different story, however. If we look at them, 47th in pitching wedge spin, or I'm so sorry, I keep saying that, 50-yard spin. Ugh. Pitching wedge, 19th in distance, because it actually, I mean, that's actually solid with the pitching wedge, which is surprising. 7-iron. This is where the forgiveness and that tour ball really started to hurt me. Just not great. There's no good numbers there. They're all in the hundreds. But when we get to the driver, on the other hand, 2nd in total yards. That's excellent. It's 20th in ball speed. Awesome. Spun a little more than I would have wanted it to. If that spin had been lower, this golf ball could have been in the 40s, 50s, 30s. I mean, who knows? I think ultimately, if you're a really, really, really good ball striker, Wilson is underrated because Wilson does buy two, get one frees all the time. You can get them for $33 a dozen if you do that. For the quality and the history and for what Wilson does, that's an awesome deal. And if you're an advanced golfer who swings fast, it's at least worth looking at, right? It's at least worth kind of checking out. At number 64, we have the Volvik Vivid Combi. So this golf ball looks exactly like the Srixon Q-Star Divide. You know, the reality is that whether or not you like this type of golf ball, it is good for practice, it is good for alignment, it is good for feedback. All that's really good. This golf ball is actually pretty decently affordable, and if we look at the numbers, they're not too shabby. 50-yard spin, 108th, that is shabby. That's the definition of shabby. Pitching wedge, not that great, but it spun a lot. 7-iron, you know, actually really good distance, really good ball speed, solid spin. And then when we get to the driver, the ball speed was excellent. But because the spin was so darn high, the yard suffered because of it. So, you know, it's a decent ball. It's decently accurate. It's got a good durability. Most of these matte golf balls like this do. However, again, it's close, right? It's knocking on the door. It's there. But because the pitching wedge was so bad and because that driver offset, you know, if that driver spin had been lower, this could be in the 50s or the 40s. Everything's really tight. There's a lot of competition, but that's where it's important that you have all your I's dotted and all your T's crossed. At number 63, we have the Trust Aurora. So this is a crystal urethane ball from Trust. You know, it's got a lot of cool features about it, right? I've tested this golf ball 3 different times this year because there was an issue when they sent them to me the first time. They sent me the previous generation. I love the vivid colors. They're easy to see. They have this really bright glow in the sun, which is nice. Greenside spin, one of the smoothest, softest checkups I've ever seen on a golf ball. It is so smooth. It's like a $200 bottle of bourbon. I mean, it's incredibly smooth, especially if you get it purified. But that's a whole other story. The thing I really like about this golf ball, though, is if we look at the numbers, as you can tell, it is one of the best spinning golf balls when it comes to the short irons. 21st when it comes to 50-yard spin. You know, pitching wedge distance is just kind of in the middle, but that's because that spin is so high. We get to 7-iron, again, everything's nice and mid. Driver leaves a little bit to be desired. That's my main beef with this golf ball, is the driving performance. Now, when it comes to this golf ball, there is kind of a main glaring issue I have, and that's that this golf ball's around $30 a dozen. The Trust Bison Power Series is $40 a dozen. Do I think the Power Series is worth the extra $10? Yes, absolutely. Spend the extra money, especially considering you can buy the Trust Bison Series in bulk for $30 a dozen. Spend that extra $10 and you will get night and day performance. And keep in mind, that's over a golf ball that is pretty solid. So that's my main issue with it, is I don't see who would play it because, look, if you're going to spend the $30, just go ahead and buy in bulk that Trust Bison because it's that better, for real. And wait until you see it on the list. At number 62, we have the Bridgestone Tour BXS. This is the last Bridgestone Tour ball we have. We've already done all the other 3 of them, so this is kind of it. What's a darn shame about this golf ball is if you remember for a while, it was #1 when it came to driver performance. I mean, for a good chunk of the year it was. I mean, I think like the whole month of September, August, September, it was like in the lead. It had the best ball speed. It had like the second most distance. It was awesome. But that wasn't enough to save it from the rest of the performance, which if we look at the numbers, 17th and 50-yard spin is awesome, but 83rd, 75th, 47th is not bad. 92nd, 84th, But again, spin's pretty good. But then this is what kills me. Now at this point in the year, it ends up at 21st in yards, 9th in ball speed, but the spin is one of the highest spinning off the drivers this year. So those yards should be top 10, but because this golf ball spun like a bat out of heck, it just didn't unfortunately crack it. And there's also an issue of, you know, the intangibles. It's decently accurate. I love the fact that it stays straight because of the dimple pattern. Again, it's close. It's knocking on the door, right? But it's just not there. It's so close. It just needed a little bit better performance here and there, and it could have been a top 40 golf ball. At number 61, and to wrap up this video, we're looking at the Bridgestone E12 Straight. So this is the golf ball. I tested these at the first of the year. It was like my first review I did of season 5 this year. I have a love-hate relationship with them because I like that Bridgestone does this fitting. You know, we have a high launch model, we have a speed model, we have a straight model. That's great. I love the mindset being on there. It's a nice little detail, you know. What I don't love is a 2-piece golf ball at $35 a dozen. I just don't. I don't understand how, if you're Bridgestone, you thrive off the fact that your tour balls are $50 a dozen, right? That's so much cheaper. That's cheaper than any other tour ball in the market. You can buy 3 of those and get the 4th free, which means you're only getting them for $37 a dozen for their tour model. That's the ball Tiger Woods plays. So who's going to spend $35 on a 2-piece golf ball, right? I mean, that's my main issue with them, is I don't understand who would do that. Now, again, I like a lot what Bridgestone does. I like the fitting. I like the 3 different models. They have made improvements. But like for me, I just keep thinking, if I'm going to spend $35, why wouldn't I just spend an extra $2 and just go all in on the tour model? You know, they have 4 different ones. One of them's got to be for me. Anyway, here's the numbers. A little disappointed in the marketing behind that, but here's the numbers. It is one of the worst in 50-yard spin, as it should be. It's a straight ball. It's designed to go straight, not designed for spin. Look at the distance. Pretty good on the pitching wedge, huh? 12th in yards. Love it, but that's also because the spin is one of the bottom-ranked ones. 7-iron, again, yards. Excellent, but that's because the spin is basically non-existent. Now, when it comes to driver performance, this kind of does get a pass. It's dead last, and then 48th in spin. The reason it gets a pass is because, like I said, it was the first golf ball I tested this year. The swing speed was about 1 mile an hour to 1.5 miles lower than what I ended the year at for my average. So I went back and gave this ball bonus points based on calculations of what it should have been, and that's why it gets up this high, is because of those bonus points. All right, that is 70 through 61. A lot of decent models in there. Hopefully you found some stuff again that you're like, okay, yeah, no, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Maybe, okay, I'll put it on my list to try, possibly if I find one on the court, that kind of thing. Now we're getting into 60 through 51 in 2 days, and I'll be honest with you, like now we're getting to stuff where you're going to see a couple really good metrics. You're going to start seeing like, oh my goodness, like, okay, this golf ball does A and B well, it just didn't do C well. So I'm excited for that. I'll see you in 2 days. Keep watching, keep saving, keep learning. Until next time.